everyone, welcome to another week of Teen Book Chat. I'm Stephanie, your Youth and Community Librarian, and today I'm going to be chatting about books written by Indigenous authors because June is National Indigenous History Month, which is a month to honor the history, heritage, and diversity of Indigenous peoples in Canada. And before we get started today, I'm going to start today a little differently with a land acknowledgement, which is a very important piece for reconciliation. Medicine Hat Public Library honors and acknowledges that we are situated on Treaty 7 and neighbor to Treaty 4 territory, traditional lands of the Siksika, Blackfoot, Kainai, Blood, Piikani, Pagan, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina Sakri, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwe peoples. We also honor and acknowledge that we are on the homelands of the Métis Nation within Region 3. If you'd like to know more about reconciliation and land acknowledgements, check out the Truth and Reconciliation Act available on the Alberta Canadian government website. Awesome. Okay, and just as a quick reminder before we start the book chat is how you can get books while we're still close to the public. There are two ways you can do that. First of all, you can give us a call at 403-502-8525 and book an appointment to pick up books at the library. The second way is to access our online resources with your library card. You're going to go to our website, MHPL.info, and go to the little menu here, and you want to click the red one that says Books and More, and we're going to go down to eBooks. Awesome. So the first one you probably heard me say many times. The first one I'm going to talk about is Overdrive. You can also download the Libby app from your Play Store or Apple Store onto your phone. And then the second one is a new one and very special for Alberta. It is called Read Alberta Books, and there are tons of ebooks on this platform written by Alberta authors. So a lot of the books are available on that platform. But as always, I'll tell you what book is available in what format. Okay, let's get started with the book chats. And we're going to kind of go from contemporary realistic fiction to magical realism to full-blown out fantasy, sci-fi fiction, and then kind of transition at the end to some nonfiction. So that's the plan for today. Okay, so our first book is called Firestarters, and this is actually a graphic novel. Firestarters is by Jen Storm and illustrated by Scott B. Henderson. This graphic novel showcases the many prejudices and racism Indigenous peoples face from police and white Canadian communities, told through realistic and full-color illustrations. Looking for a little mischief after discovering an old flare gun, Ron and Ben find themselves in trouble when the local gas bar on a fictional reserve in Manitoba goes up in flames, and they are wrongly accused of arson by the sheriff's son. As the investigation goes forward, community attitudes are revealed, and the truth slowly comes to light. In spite of the heavy topics addressed in this short graphic novel, there is a relatively happy and hopeful ending that will encourage readers to think about their own white privilege and how they can be better allies. This book is available for pickup, so give us a call if you want to check out this graphic novel. Our next book is another graphic novel, and it's called Surviving the City by Tasha Spillett and illustrated by Natasha Donovan. Miquan and Des are best friends. Miquan is Anishinaabe and Des is Innu. Together, the teens navigate the challenges of growing up in an urban landscape. However, when Dez's grandmother becomes too sick, Des is told she can't stay with her anymore. With the threat of a group home looming, Des can't bring herself to go and disappears. Miquan is devastated and the wound of her missing mother resurfaces. Will Dez's community find her before it's too late? Will Miquan be able to cope if they don't? With dynamic and vivid illustrations, this eye-opening graphic novel raises awareness about murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people in both a relatable and informative way, with an appendix full of statistics and further recommended reading on the topic at the end of the book. This book you can grab as an ebook two different ways. You can grab it on Libby by Overdrive, or you can check it out on Read Alberta Books as an ebook as well. Okay, our next book is called Fire Song by Adam Garnett Jones. Shane is a gay Anishinaabe high school student. His sister Destiny has just committed suicide for unknown reasons. Shane's mom holds herself up in Destiny's room in a deep depression. The only person that truly makes Shane happy is David. Everything else about his life sucks. The teen has to pretend to have a girlfriend while sneaking around with David because he doesn't think his community would accept his sexuality. Shane decides that he must leave the reservation and wants David to go with him. But when David refuses, the boys are forced to make difficult choices about their future together. This hard-hitting, own voices, coming-of-age story addresses topics of mental health and sexuality in the context of an Indigenous community that is tied to the past while struggling in a world shaped by colonialism, giving non-Indigenous readers great insight into how many Indigenous communities are facing the crisis of teen suicide to this day. This book is actually a novelization of a movie by the same title, written and directed by Adam Garnett Jones. So if you like the book, check out the movie, or check out the movie first and then read the book. This book is available for pickup, so give us a call if you want to read it. Next up, we have a really an award-winning book called Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson. And this is kind of where we're going to segue into that more magical realism genre. This dark magical realism fantasy is the first book in the Trickster trilogy and blends humor with heartbreak in this compelling coming-of-age story. Everyday teen existence meets Indigenous culture, crazy family dynamics, and cannibalistic river otters? Yeah, you heard that right. Jared can't count on his mom to stay sober and stick around to take care of him. He can't rely on his dad to pay the bills and support his new wife and stepdaughter. Jared is only 16, but he feels like he's the one who must stabilize his family's life and even look out for his elderly neighbors. But he struggles to keep everything afloat. He puzzles over why his maternal grandmother has never liked him, why she says he's the son of a trickster, that he isn't human, and that his real dad is a literal, spiritual, and magical being. Mind you, ravens do tend to speak to him, even when he's not under the influence. Reader beware, this book is intended for slightly older audiences, but the ending will have you running to read the sequel. This book is available for pickup, as well as you can read the ebook on Libby. Next up, we have Strangers by David Alexander Robertson. From award-winning children's author comes his YA debut, the first in a trilogy that weaves together supernatural elements with a thrilling mystery that will have you breezing through this captivating 200-page novel. When he was 7, Cole left his reserve after witnessing a horrific and suspicious accident that claimed his parents' lives. 10 years later, Cole returns to his home to face his demons and discovers that the reserve is being plagued by a mysterious illness and a series of murders. With the aid of an unhelpful coyote spirit, a disfigured ghost, and his 2 oldest friends, Cole tries to figure out his purpose and unravel the mysteries he left behind a decade ago. Will he find the answers in time to save his community? You'll only find out if you read the book. This book is available for pickup, or you can read the ebook on the Read Alberta Books app. All right, now we're kind of moving into full-fledged fantasy mode with Those Who Run in the Sky by Vik Johnston. Written by Iqaluit-based Inuit author, this teen fantasy is a fun coming-of-age adventure that follows a young shaman named Pitu as he learns to use his powers and ultimately finds himself lost in the world of the spirits. After a strange and violent blizzard leaves Pitu stranded on the sea ice, without his dog team or any weapons to defend himself, he soon realizes that he is no longer in the world that he once knew. The storm has carried him into the world of spirits, a world populated with terrifying creatures like black wolves and water-dwelling creatures that want nothing more to snatch him up. After stumbling upon a fellow shaman who has been trapped in the spirit world for many years, Pichu must master all of his shamanic powers to make his way back to the world of the living, to his family, and to the girl that he loves. This book is the perfect read if you just finished binge watching Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix, because there is mythology, magic, and an amazing student-mentor relationship. And don't worry, there is a sequel, so you can spend even more time with the characters you will fall in love with. Both this book and the sequel are available for pickup, so give us a call if you want to check it out. Our last fantasy book before we move on to nonfiction stories is The Marrow Thieves by Sherry DeMaline. This gripping dystopian sci-fi shines a light on the horrors Indigenous peoples have endured by white Euro-Canadians, and this book has topped the Canadian bestseller list for 2 years straight for its powerful and engaging story. In a futuristic world ravaged by global warming, people have lost the ability to dream, and the dreamlessness has led to widespread madness. The only people still able to dream are North America's Indigenous people, and it is their bone marrow that holds the cure for the rest of the world. But getting the marrow and dreams means death for the unwilling donors. Driven to flight, a 16-year-old Métis boy named Frenchie and his companions struggle for survival, attempt to reunite with loved ones while taking refuge from the recruiters who seek them out to bring them to the marrow-stealing factories. Unlike any other dystopian novel you will ever read, this has a very haunting plot and characters you will root for it to the end. The plot is so haunting, it will leave you shaken a little bit as to the truth of the awful things Canada has done to the Indigenous people. It's very, very great science fiction novel that highlights a really, really, really important issue. This book, you can grab the ebook on Libby by Overdrive right now. Highly recommend. All right, so our last book we're going to talk about today is a graphic novel anthology, and it is probably in my top 5 all-time recommended reads ever. So good. It is called This Place 150 Years Retold. Explore the past 150 years through the eyes of Indigenous creators in this groundbreaking graphic novel anthology. There are 10 tales that are introduced by a foreword from its author, with a timeline of events surrounding the narrative. Beautifully illustrated, these stories are an emotional and enlightening journey through Indigenous wonderworks, psychic battles, and time travel. With a blend of fact-based stories and fantastical stories that have been passed down generations, this well-rounded collection of stories should be required reading for every Canadian. I personally was so moved by this book. Its stories are so good, and I spent many weeks after I read it wrestling with the fact that I had not learned about any of the historical figures and movements for Indigenous rights in this book ever in school. And that's terrible. This book will make you question our whitewashed history books and encourage you to explore to learn more about the Indigenous point of view and become an ally. I highly recommend. I cried a lot and I had to denounce my white privilege a lot reading this book, but it is so good and a very, very important step in our reconciliation movement. Highly recommend. This book is available for pickup, as well as you can read the ebook on the Read Alberta Books app. And that's all I have today, folks. I hope you found a new book that you want to check out. There are so many amazing books by Indigenous creators and authors, and it is so important for us to read diverse books because it brings a new perspective to us and it helps us to denounce our white privilege, to be less racist, and to be a better ally. So I highly recommend you check out one of these books. If you want more recommendations, please DM me on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you and give you more recommended reads. Until next time, friends, stay safe. Bye.